Hey y'all. So today I want to share something with you that as a beekeeper I have learned to be very crucial when it comes to keeping my bees happy, healthy. This was something that as a new beekeeper I knew a little bit about, but not a lot. And now a couple of years in, I see what a difference it can make, especially getting my bees through the winter when it comes to keeping them fed and getting them good carbs for energy to help keep the hive warm and do all the things they need to do throughout the winter until spring comes and they can go around again and find all that natural pollen. And where we live in Alabama, we stay pretty warm. We do have some cold spells through the winter, but we stay relatively warm, and we have things that bloom pretty late into the fall and then start up pretty early in the spring. There's still a window in there where my bees need some supplement. We leave honey for them in the hive, but I found they need some extra on top of that. And I'm going to show you something today that's really simple. A few very simple ingredients you probably already have in your home. You can also buy pollen patties, and I'm not saying that those are bad. There's a time and place for all kinds of things, right? And they can be super beneficial. Not saying that pollen patties are not good or that you shouldn't use them, but this right here, these sugar cakes are something that it's been a game changer when it comes to beekeeping for me, for my bees, and I'm gonna share it with you. I've got the ingredients sitting right here in front of me. I'm gonna show you how incredibly simple this is. Let me move the camera down and I'll show it to you. If you're a beekeeper, hopefully this helps you out. If you're researching and getting ready to get some bees in the spring, be on top of this. Have this as one of those things that store it in the back of your mind for next winter. I know some people use this in early spring as well. There's some different thoughts on that, and I can do another video on what we typically do early spring. But if you're researching bees, getting ready to get you some bees this spring, this is some good information to have in the back of your mind. All right, I'm gonna move the camera down, show you what I'm doing. All we need to make these sugar cakes is some granulated white sugar. I did have to go and buy another package of this. I don't keep a lot of white sugar in the house anymore because we usually use a cane sugar. And that cane sugar still has, and let me go get what I'm talking about and just show you. This is the organic cane sugar that we use for our family, and it's wonderful for us. It is not as processed as your white sugar, and it's really great for our family, but there's a little bit of molasses left in this, and for bees and hummingbirds, this isn't the best option. I have used it before, and I'm not going to say I didn't, but this is one of those things that as I'm learning more and more, I decided that I was more comfortable going with white sugar, especially in the winter for my bees, because what that extra molasses could do would be cause them to need to essentially use the bathroom more. And in the winter, they can't really be flying out of the hive as much, especially when it's really cold. And so just doing some research, and that's just one thing on top of some others, I decided that I wanted to do white sugar for my bees. And I've made one or two of these already throughout the winter, and I was out of white sugar, so I had to go get some more. This is a new package, but all we need is white sugar and some water. You can also add a little splash of vinegar if you would like. Sometimes I have done that and sometimes I haven't. Then you're going to need something to form your patty in. You could use all kinds of things. I like to use this bread pan because the shape that it makes is perfect for me to lay on top of the cluster in the beehive, and I'm going to show you how I do that. But it's a good shape. I've removed a couple of the frames in the top box, left some of them that had honey in them, and removed some of the others that they did not draw out. And this is a good shape for me to put right there in that spot. And then I like to line it with just a little bit of parchment paper. It just makes it a little easier to get out when it's all said and done. You don't necessarily have to. You could still get it out once it's dry, but that just makes it a little bit easier. All right, I'm going to start with 2 cups of white sugar. I decided that I am going to put some vinegar in this today. The vinegar will help keep mold away if it was to be an issue. I really haven't had these mold without vinegar in them either, so just putting that out there, just my experience. But it also, I think, helps the bees convert to the sugar. So I'm going to put a teaspoon. It's a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar. You can use apple cider or white vinegar. And then I'm going to do 2 tablespoons of water. So it's a tablespoon of water for each cup of sugar. And then we need to mix it around. Making sure I was recording. I'd stopped it, started it back, and I was like, oh, I don't know if I push the button. You're going to have some clumps in there. You just want to keep pressing those out and working them into the sugar. We're going for almost like wet sand. You definitely don't want it overly wet. It'll take it way too long to dry out, if it ever did dry out, but you want it to be able to hold together and form a shape. Okay, now I'm going to put this over into my pan. Again, you could shape this in anything. Sometimes I've seen people use round pie pans, or even shaping it on paper plates or bowls. I just like this because it's a good shape for me to put into the hive. And I'm going to press this down. You want to get it packed in there pretty good so that it all stays together as it's drying. I was trying not to get it under my parchment paper. I'm just pressing it in with the back side of my spoon. And I'll show you how I get this out once it is dry. But I can kind of push on the bottom a little bit and pull this edge of parchment paper that I have sticking up. And it'll help it come out nice and easy. I'm going to let this sit in here and dry overnight. And then as long as it feels pretty dry in the morning, I'll turn it out, flip it over onto a plate or something, and let the bottom side dry out a little bit more. I'm going to show all that to you. But just kind of giving you an idea. It needs several hours to start drying before we turn it out of whatever we're molding it into. So mine is going to stay in here overnight. All right, I think I got that packed down pretty good. I'm going to set this somewhere, let it dry out overnight, and I'll catch up with you in the morning. It is the next morning. I'm about to go get myself ready, but I'm going to go ahead and pull this out, flip it over. That way the bottom side can dry a little bit. And usually I just do this on a plate, but I happen to have my dehydrator out and going. And so I'm just going to sit on the dehydrator tray, and it'll actually give it some airflow underneath it too. But so like I said, I'm just taking that parchment paper so it comes out super easy. Just going to pull this out. Take my parchment paper off. And this one's feeling pretty much dry as it is. I don't even know that I need to leave it drying any longer, but I'm gonna flip it over, let it sit here for just a little bit, and it'll be ready to go out to the bees. I do this just so, you know, there might be a few spots on the bottom that feel like they need to dry a little bit more, and it'll just give that some time to dry. So just a couple hours like this, and then I'm gonna take it out. It's pretty dry though, y'all. It would be fine to go out there right now, but I have a little time, so we'll let it dry a little more. That's what it looks like. And it held together perfectly. I'm about to put this sugar cake, bee candy, whatever you want to call it, in here for the bees. It's a little cooler outside today, but I am still seeing them coming in and out of the hive. So maybe they'll be calm enough for me to open this up and place this on top of where the cluster would be. Couple things I wanted to mention. Another benefit of this is it helps absorb moisture. So in those more damp, cold months, having this sugar cake for your bees is food for them to help them have the energy they need to stay warm, make it through the winter, but it also helps absorb moisture, which can be detrimental for bees in the hive. So that's another added benefit. Something else I wanted to mention is something else that people do sometimes is fondant to help feed bees over the winter, which is like a big chunk of sugar itself. It's a little different texture. It's used a lot in cake decorating. Maybe you know what I'm talking about. Our first winter with bees, I tried using fondant, and you know, maybe it was just our bees, but they didn't seem to like it. They didn't really eat on it much, and it didn't work for us. Not sure why. Maybe my bees just didn't like it, but the fondant didn't work for us. These sugar cakes though have, so let's get it in for the bees. I don't know if you can see it, but look, they are finding some pollen. I'm also going to need to change the way this entrance reducer is set up on here, but it's working right now, so I'm just kind of leaving it. But how about that? Yeah, they're still pretty clustered in here. I can see them. I don't want to squish anybody, but I want to put this pretty much on top of the cluster. Maybe I can get them to move a little bit. Looks like they are already happy about that. There you go, little friends. Let's get them covered back up so they stay warm. There you have it. That is how I make these sugar cakes for my bees to help them have some extra food through the winter, give them the energy they need to stay warm and do all the things that bees need to do and make it to springtime. Hope you found that interesting, maybe helpful. If you have bees or are looking into getting bees, maybe that was helpful for you. My bees seem to be enjoying it, and that makes me happy. Here's to hoping that they stay strong, because we do have some cold weather coming up. If we can make it through that, I think we'll be able to coast into spring. We'll have to see though. I am hopeful. I'm hopeful that my bees do well. All right, y'all. I love you. I appreciate you, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, y'all.